It's not gross. It's awesome, Ben.
So
Get there before the dog. Moist
there
towel.
are two ways we start treating an evisceration, okay? And your book identifies both of these. So your book's kind of dead on about this. One way is we put moist dressings directly on the organs. One of the downsides of this is that when you do that, you're going to, the moist dressings are going to be cold, colder than the body, and they're going to make the patient hypothermic fairly fast, okay? This patient is already likely losing a significant amount of blood from the massive injury that is causing their guts to hang out, okay? So that's going to be bad, all right? They're going to be in shock already, and you're going to make them hypothermic, so that's going to cause some major problems. But it's going to kind of preserve the health of the organs is the advantage to keeping them moist, because that way they won't have any more damage by being dried out or having anything on them. The other thing that you can do, the other take that some people do, is to put an occlusive dressing directly on them. The advantage to this is that it attempts to keep them kind of from drying out, and it preserves body heat. Maryland, you can go either way with this. Okay, you can go either way in Maryland. So one of the things that you kind of want to think about with this is how big of an evisceration am I looking at? If I'm looking at a very large evisceration, putting a wet sterile dressing on this is going to have a major impact on the temperature effects. So I'm probably going to want to use the occlusive dressing directly on it. Okay? I'm probably also going to want to use an occlusive dressing if the patient has other major injuries that are causing massive bleeding. I'm probably also going to want to use the occlusive dressing if it's freezing cold out and the patient's already cold, right? If this is a small evisceration, very small, there's a picture in your book of, on the same patient, a large one and a small one. If this is small, patient's not cold, not likely to have hypothermia, there's no other major bleeding that you can at least see, there might be some pretty serious internal stuff, you may want to consider wetting with sterile saline or sterile water, whatever you happen to have on your ambulance. You may have both, you may have one or the other. A trauma pad is likely what you're going to wet, and putting that down as the first layer, and then putting a bunch of dry ones down, okay? Yeah?
Could you use like aloe vera, like from a jar? That wouldn't do it?
No.
No?
No. So I'm opening this up to get my occlusive dressing, because that looks pretty big to me, so I'm just going to use an occlusive dressing first. Alright, obviously in class we're not going to be wetting anything, so in class what you're going to be doing is occlusive dressing first and then lots of trauma pads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an occlusive dressing down. We don't need to tape this or anything, we just need to put the occlusive dressing on. If the guts are like literally hanging on the floor, pile them back up on top of the patient. The best of your ability. Just kind of put them, don't stuff them back in, just put them on top. Put the occlusive dressing down, okay? My partner's just kind of going to hold everything in place, and I'm going to work with some trauma pads. You're going to want to kind of open up the trauma pads so that they're kind of big, and you want the trauma pads to be basically at least 3, okay? And you want them to make a very large set of padding. And what they're going to do is they're going to make kind of a pouch, okay? So if you can just kind of hold a pouch there. So what I'm doing with the cravats while I have them wide open is I'm basically going to tuck the tail. So I'm bringing it up and I'm folding this cravat in half by bringing the tail up. I'm going to then grab and fold in half again. So I've now folded my cravat into kind of a wide band. I'm going to do this with 2 cravats. Now with these 2 cravats, I'm going to put them on this stick, our short splint, slide them under the small of Mike's back. And my partner is gonna pull them out, and we're gonna figure out which one is up and which one is down. Oh, I'm pulling. That's the bottom one. I'm pulling the top. All right, so we're gonna shimmy them into place. All right. Cool. Okay. So if you can just keep kind of holding the pooch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna tie these off center. So one knot's gonna go on this side, one knot's gonna go on that side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tie, and then I'm gonna fan the cravat out to kind of help make a pouch. So I tied one single overhand knot, and notice I'm way above where the evisceration is. I'm making a pouch out of this.
Yeah, are those trauma pads, would they be wet?
No, these are dry. These are the 3 padded ones that are dry. Everything you put on top of the occlusive dressing is dry. So let's say you decided to make it wet. You would put down a wet one, okay? Then you would put down an occlusive dressing. Then you would put down these 3 padding ones.
Is there a time where you want to make it wet, or you don't?
Did you like not listen to that whole conversation?
And it's an organ, so you want to keep it dry. You want to keep it moist.
And like when you're wetting,
If the evisceration is very small and there's no danger of hypothermia or very minimal danger of hypothermia or shock,
You just use saline?
yeah, professor.
yeah.
When you're wetting the trauma pad, are you like trying to douse it or just like trying to like make it damp?
It doesn't, you don't want it dripping.
Okay.
You just want it damp.
Okay.
And you would do the same thing if that was a wet dressing under there.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Right. So general rule, always use wet dressings unless it's going to endanger them.
Yeah, and lots of times it will endanger them. So it's kind of a rare evisceration where you're going to be able to use the wet, but sometimes you may be able to use the wet.
Okay.
So Maryland is open to either.
Have you seen like quite a few eviscerations?
I've never seen one.
Oh.
EMT from last semester already ran one. So the guy had an abdominal surgery and got into a car accident, and the incision just opened up.
Oh, that's
And
awful.
dude was lucid though. He said he was like, "Do you guys have beer?"
Okay, so now I'm gonna fan these cravats out. And this fanning part is very critical.
That'd be a good last beer.
Eviscerations are actually quite common at pools because people get stuck to the main drain at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
That is not a
Like,
common
like,
thing,
and the
Brennan.
organs are pulled through.
Yeah, I've heard
Oh,
of
really?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, because
It's like kind of an urban legend-ish.
Oh, 2020 or Dateline did a whole show on that.
Really?
Wait, what?
Yeah,
So,
some
do you all see how I fanned the cravats out?
Yes.
That's very important. So we've made a pouch
Pulls it out of their butt.
to hold this.
everything in.
Yep. Now the one last thing I have to do is this poor guy, he has an abdominal injury.
Yes.
Knees down, legs straight, killing him. So I'm going to help him by lifting his knees up. And I'm going to put something under here to make it very easy for him to hold his knees up. Usually the easiest thing to do is a pile of blankets, but we don't usually have piles of blankets in Prince George's County. We barely can get one. So I usually stick an aid bag under. If you work in a jurisdiction where you have piles of blankets work. But you need to find something to go under here so that the patient can relax with their knees in this position. You're just gonna throw Josh under there? No, we can't spare some. We can't spare
Some
him.
Josh.
Oh.
He is pretty handy.
All right.